Former Supreme Court Chief Justice Renato Puno is moving for a people's initiative to abolish the Priority Development Assistance Fund for legislators. What is a people's initiative? How can it be mobilized? What are the costs? Will Congress allow such a move which will diminish its power over the purse? Joining us tonight here on NewsLife is Professor Prospero De Vera, one of the country's top political strategists and analysts. Good evening, sir, and welcome to NewsLife.
Good evening.
Sir, can you explain to us briefly, to everyone, what is a people's initiative?
People's initiative is a democratic mechanism put in the Constitution that allows citizens to directly pass laws or amend the Constitution on issues that their elected representatives are unwilling or unable to do so. It's a concept that we copied in the United States. It is used in more than 20 states in the US, mostly in the western states. For a very long time, California put it as a mechanism in 1911, and in 2014 passed their first initiative law. So it has been used, for example, in the United States to increase the minimum wage, to enact a law that allows the use of medical marijuana, for example, and very recently in California to pass a law that bans same-sex marriage, although this was eventually overturned by the California Supreme Court.
Sir, when was the last time was the People's Initiative used here in the Philippines, and for which specific advocacy was it used for?
It has been used two times. In 1997, PILMA tried to amend the Constitution to essentially allow President Ramos to get a second term, and Raul Lambino led the Sigaw ng Bayan during the Arroyo administration in 2005-2006 to shift the form of government from a presidential to a parliamentary form of government. Both times the initiative process lost when it was challenged before the Supreme Court. In 1997, the Supreme Court said the enabling law, People's Initiative Law, was insufficient to allow People's Initiative, and in 2006, the Supreme Court also decided that there's something wrong in the way Raul Lambino did the initiative for a change in government, and therefore invalidated the attempt to change the Constitution.
Now, sir, there is a call from former Chief Justice Renato Puno pushing for People's Initiative to abolish the PAAF. Do you agree with him?
It's a good idea, but those who are proposing it should be ready to face the tremendous obstacles that accompany an attempt to pass a law or to change the Constitution. You know, we enacted a People's Initiative concept in the Philippines that was patterned after the United States, but we made it very difficult to do it in the Philippines. For example, in the Philippines, you need 10% of all registered voters to pass a law, and 12% to amend the Constitution, and 3% in every legislative district. That's a very difficult process to do. Compare that, for example, in California. In California, you need 5% who voted in the last election for governor. So if, for example, 60% voted for governor in the last election, you need 5% of the 60% to push for an initiative, and 8.5% to amend the state constitution. And in the US, you don't need a percentage by legislative district, which means you can get all the 5% from just one part of the state and launch the initiative. It's very difficult in the Philippines to do it. You need tremendous resources, both human and financial resources. And the other problem with our initiative law is that it was crafted rather poorly. There's a lot of ambiguity in the law, which opens it to challenges before the Supreme Court. For example, the People's Initiative Law does not identify who will certify that the language of the initiative would not be violative of existing law, or it would be clear so that those who sign it know what they are signing on it. It's not clear who will do it. In the US, for example, it is the legislative or the Secretary of the Senate or the legislature that will certify. I am pointing this out because if you launch an initiative on pork barrel, the language of the initiative is very crucial because if it is not crafted well, it is not crafted clearly, and you start getting signatures and then somebody raises it before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court finds that the language is inadequate or is poorly crafted, then all the signatures that you got all over the country will be useless. Especially because you're talking about pork barrel. When you put the language for the initiative, what pork barrel are you talking about? Pork barrel as PAAF? Pork barrel as DAP, for example. I mean, all these nuances have to be very clear for those who are announcing it. For example, the one they're doing in Cebu now is a wrong way of pushing an initiative. They are gathering signatures, but the language of what they're trying to propose has not been very clearly articulated. So that's a problem.
Yes, sir. Who's supposed to draft the law and who's supposed to review and approve it in the long run?
In the US, it's very clear. Those who, for example, in California, those who will launch an initiative will draft the language, and the state legislature will certify that the language conforms both in form and in substance and does not violate the Constitution. And then once the language is certified, that's the time you start asking for signatures. Our initiative law is not very clear. It does not say, for example, that it will be COMELEC who will certify to the adequacy of the language. It's not clear, so we don't know. And that is one loophole in the law that can be exploited by those who will oppose it.
Sir, at this stage, the future of the PAAF will depend on the Supreme Court to decide if it's constitutional or not. If it is unconstitutional, will this not usurp the power of the Congress to enact the national budget?
Not really. I think even if the Supreme Court says it is unconstitutional, what will happen is that Congress and the executive branch will have to craft a better way of doing the budget. Meaning they will have to do line-item enumeration of projects, for example. That means legislators will not have any say anymore in where the projects will be done, who will benefit from the project, but they will still maintain the power over the purse. They will still have control over the details of the budget.
Sir, earlier you discussed how long and grueling the process of pushing for a people's initiative will be. With so many issues coming on top of the PAAF issue, do you think the people or the electorate will have enough sustained energy to really focus and push for this advocacy?
I think they should try to launch the initiative. I think it's a good way of keeping people informed and keeping people's energies or tapping people's energies to push forward reforms. My only point is they have to be very realistic about the obstacles on the way of initiative and make sure that these are surmounted. Otherwise, we may not be able to use this mechanism for enacting reforms.
All right, thank you very much. That's Professor Prospero De Vera, one of the top political analysts of the country. Thank you, sir.